In 6.16, breach of contract. A contract is legally enforceable promise. The promise usually for the purchase of an item or for a service or job rendered. If a party breaks a promise, the other party may be able to sue for breach of contract. In Malaysia, contract law is basically governed and enforced by the Contract Act 1950. The remedy of specific performance presupposes the existence of a valid contract between the parties to the controversy. The terms of the contract must be definite and certain. This is significant because equality cannot be expected to enforce either an invalid contract or one that is so vague in terms that equality cannot determine exactly what it must order each party to perform. It would be unjust for a court to compel the performance of a contract according to the ambiguous terms interpreted by the court, since the court might erroneously order what the parties never intended or contemplated. Based on my understanding of the law of contract, as a general rule, performance of a contract must be exact and precise, and should be in accordance with what the parties had promised. Section 38(1) of the Contract Act 1950 provides that the party to a contract must be either perform or offer to perform their respective promises unless performance has been dispensed with by any law in order to form a contract agreement that is enforceable by the law. The following 6 elements must be fulfilled. Number 1. Proposal or offer, acceptance, considerations, intention to create legal relations, capacity to contract, and free consent. Proposal or offer. The words proposals and offers are synonyms and are used interchangeably. When one person signifies to another his willingness to do or to abstain from doing anything with view to obtaining the assent of the other to such act or abstinence, he is said to make a proposal. 2 important element expressions of the offerer's willingness to do something or to abstain from doing anything, and made with a view to obtain the essence of the other. For example, more casual statement is not enough. In other words, it is definite expressions or an overt action which begins the contract. It is simply that is offered to another for the return of that person's promise to act. It cannot be injurious or unclear. It must be spelled out in terms that are specific and certain, such as identity and nature of the object which is being offered and under what conditions and or term it is offered. In 6.12, we are talking about acceptance. The acceptance of one party's offer for the other party is what forms the contract. According to common legal principles, acceptance cannot be revoked nor can it change the conditions of the offers, amend it, or modify it. There are no conditional acceptance by law. However, this may differ from state to state. And in reality, the offeree is rejecting the offer by accepting it conditionally. The offerer, on the other hand, might be bound by the offeree's term by doing or saying something that demonstrates acceptance of the counteroffer. Silence is rarely a valid form of acceptance unless one of the following exceptions apply. The party had agreed previously that silence would be an acceptance. The offeree has taken the benefits of the offer or through previous dealings between the parties, it is reasonable that the offeree should notify the offerer if she does not intend to accept. As an example, from the newspaper, one claims that Ngan was interested in cooperating with her on a development project in Xi'an, Beijing, China, which she initiated and planned. Ngan made an offer to Wang to cooperate with her on the project. They signed an agreement on 26 February 2007. As a result of the signing agreement, Wang is presumed to accept the offer. Considerations. Considerations for a contract may be a payment for money, a vital element in the law of contract. Consideration is a benefit which must be bargained for between the parties and is the essential reasons for a party entering into a contract. Consideration must be of a value and is exchanged for the performance or promise of performance by the other party. In a contract, one consideration is exchanged for another consideration. Not doing an act forbearance can be consideration, such as I will pay you $1,000 not to build a road next to my fence. Sometimes consideration is a nominal, meaning it is stated for form only, such as $10 as a consideration for conveyance of a title, which is used to hide the true amount being paid. Contracts may become unenforceable or rescindable undone by rescissions for a failure of consideration when the intended consideration is found to be worth less than expected, is damaged or destroyed, or performance is not made properly, as when the mechanic does not make the car run properly. Acts which are illegal or so immoral that they are against established public policy cannot serve as consideration for enforceable contracts. Further examples, prostitutions, gambling were outlawed, hiring someone to break a skater's knee or inducing someone to breach an agreement, talk someone into a backing out of a premise. Intention to create legal relations. Intention to create legal relations means that the party must intend to enter into a legally binding arrangement in which the rights and the obligations of the agreements are enforceable. The question as to whether the parties to a negotiations did intend to create legal relations is highly fact sensitive. It is relatively certain that representative of a business meeting in a formal commercial scenario to negotiate a contract to intend to create legal relations. It is a basic requirement to the formation of any contract, be it oral or written, that there has to be mutual assent or meeting of the minds of the parties on all proposed terms and essential elements of the contract. It has been held by the courts that there can be no contract unless all the parties involved intended to enter into one. This intent is determined by the outward actions or actual words of the parties and not just their secret intentions or desires. Therefore, mere negotiations to arrive at a mutual agreement or assent to be a contract would not be considered an offer and acceptance even though the parties agree on some of the terms which are being negotiated. Both parties must have intended to enter into the contract, and one cannot have been misled by the other. That is why fraud or certain mistakes can make a contract voidable. The agreement between Wang and Ngan is a business agreement. Therefore, the reputable presumptions according to case laws, as discussed above, would suggest that Wang and Ngan are intended to be legally bound. Capacity to contract. Fundamentally, two or more parties enter into a contract. A party may be an individual, a group of people, or even an artificial person, such as a corporation. The parties to a contract must have the legal capacity to enter into that contract. Persons who are deemed incompetent due to physical or mental illness lack capacity to enter into contract. Minors, which in most states refers to persons under the age of 18, may enter into contracts. However, any contract involving a minor is voidable. When a contract involving a minor goes unfulfilled, it may be affirmed or disaffirmed when the minor reaches maturity or legally becomes an adult. Parties to a contract also must have the legal right to do what the contract promises. For example, one cannot sell what one does not own. In this case, both Wang and Ngan were older than 18 years old when they entered into the contract. Section 12(1) of the Contract Act 1950 provides that a person is said to be of sound mind for the purpose of making a contract if, at the time when he makes it, he is capable of understanding it and of forming a rational judgment as to its effect upon his interest. As a result, the agreement is valid. Free consent. For a contract to be valid, the consent of the party must be free and genuine. The principle followed in making a contract valid says the parties entering the contract must mean an equivalent thing within the same sense. The parties to the contract must have a similar understanding regarding the topic of the contract. Only consent is not enough for a contract to be enforceable. The consent must given be free and voluntary from all the forces. Section 14 of the Indian Contract Act defines the concept of free consent. The consent free from coercion, undue influence, fraud, misrepresentations, or mistake. Free consent in a contract is said to be duly given when it's not under the existence of any kind of coercion, undue influence, fraud, misrepresentations, or mistake. This principle aims to make sure that the judgments of the parties while entering the contract was not ambiguous. Therefore, the consent was given under coercion, under influence of fraud, misrepresentations. The mistakes has no potential to invalidate the contract. The consent given by a party would be invalid if 1. Coercion. If consent is under coercion, coercion is that the act of committing or threatening to commit any act forbidden by the Indian Penal Code, or the unlawful detaining or threatening to detain any property to the buyers of a person desiring to cause a person to enter an agreement. Number 2. Undue influence. When the parties to the contract are in relations in such a way that one party can dominate the will of the other and uses the unfair advantage to gain or to get the consent of the other party, then the consent is said to have been obtained by undue influence. Number 3. Fraud. Consent is not free when a person gets it by using means of fraud. Lastly, misrepresentations. When consent was obtained through misrepresentations, it becomes voidable at the options party whose consent was so obtained. Mistake. When one party has given its consent to the contract under some kinds of misunderstanding, then the consent is said to be given by mistake.